I never imagined that I would be the reason my own life would fall apart. When I got married at 25, I thought love was going to protect me from every sadness in the world. I believed marriage meant security, comfort, and a partner who would hold me through every storm. But I didn't know some storms happen inside a person, and sometimes you can't help someone escape their own mind. My name is Charlotte. My husband's name is Matthew. He served overseas for years before coming home and marrying me. I remember the day he proposed, smiling, nervous, hopeful. The sun was setting and reflected in his eyes like something magical. I loved him. I truly did. But love is not always enough. The man who returned home after war was not the same man who promised me happiness. Sometimes he would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, clutching his chest, gasping like he was drowning. Sometimes he would stare at the floor for minutes, without blinking. If a car backfired outside, he would jump up and hide behind furniture. His heart raced all the time, even when mine had stopped racing for him.
Doctors said he had PTSD.
I said he was slowly disappearing. He kept telling me he didn't want to hurt anyone again. He didn't want his anger to ever come out. And so he avoided me emotionally, physically, romantically. Every night, I lay there alone while he sat in the living room with the TV muted, trying to keep his demons quiet. I wanted to understand him, but loneliness is like a slow poison. You don't realize you're dying until you stop breathing. And then John came into the picture. He was everything Matthew had stopped being: confident, direct, playful, alive. He met Matthew at a local gym and soon became a regular visitor. They would talk, laugh, and share memories of the old days. And while Matthew smiled with John, he rarely smiled with me. I should have tried harder to save my marriage. I should have held his hand instead of letting another man hold mine. One evening, Matthew had a terrible panic episode. He locked himself in the bathroom, sobbing, trembling, saying he didn't deserve to live this life. I stood outside helplessly, trying to calm him, but nothing worked. John had dropped me home from the grocery store that night. When he saw me crying at the door, he asked what happened. I didn't tell him everything, but I told him enough for him to pull me into his arms. I should have walked away that moment. Instead, I stayed in his arms a little too long. And he kissed me. I broke the kiss, shocked at myself. But the damage was already done. Because the moment I tasted affection again, I realized how starved I had become for it. I kept thinking, it's just a weak moment, it won't happen again.
But it did.
Again and again. At first, it was just flirting. Then stolen kisses. Then hours together I shouldn't have had. I lied every day. Late shifts. Fake meetups. Secret calls. If lying was a sport, I would have been a champion. Matthew blamed himself for losing our connection. I blamed him too, even though I was the one tearing it apart. He tried so hard sometimes, making breakfast, attending therapy, surprising me with small gifts. But by then, my heart wasn't home anymore. It was in someone else's hands. John wanted more. He wanted me to choose him. He wanted to be inside the life Matthew built. That's when things crossed a line even I didn't think I would cross. One night, Matthew was too exhausted and fell asleep on the couch while watching TV. His chest was rising slowly, finally in peace after days of panic episodes. I looked at him and invited John inside our house. We tiptoed past my husband, the man who once protected me from the world, while I betrayed him in the cruelest way possible. I kept whispering to John to stay quiet, to not make a sound. He smirked, holding me like I already belonged only to him. After it was done, John kissed me deeply and said in my ear, "See? You deserve someone strong, someone real." I didn't realize he wasn't talking about love. He was talking about power. I stood there, adjusting myself, trying to make everything look normal before Matthew woke up, and the guilt punched me for a second. That second wasn't enough to stop me. The next day, Matthew hugged me and apologized for not being able to give me a normal life. He told me he would get better, that he would fight his nightmares harder for me. And I said, "It's okay," while texting John under the table. John became controlling very quickly. He started saying things like, "Why do you still live with him? You know he's broken. He doesn't deserve you." I do. We should make this official. He would ask where I was every hour. He wanted photos to prove I wasn't with Matthew. He wanted access to every part of me. At first, it made me feel special, like I mattered. Then it made me feel like I was trapped. I thought I was escaping a sad marriage, but all I did was open the door for a monster I didn't recognize. One evening, Matthew came home early. John had his arm around my waist, his voice low, teasing me. The front door opened, and Matthew stood there frozen. His expression didn't show anger. It didn't show sadness. It showed nothing. That hurt more than if he had screamed. He looked at John.
He looked at me.
And then he looked down, like he was embarrassed for existing. He didn't ask questions. He didn't shout. He just whispered, "I'm sorry for whatever I did to lose you." I swear to God, that moment something inside me cracked. Because I knew the real answer. He didn't lose me. I threw him away. Matthew walked past us, straight to the bedroom. I heard the lock click. Not loud, not angry, just a soft click that told me he had broken quietly. I wanted to say something. Anything. But John held my hand tighter, smirking like he had won some battle. And Matthew, the man who fought real wars, had walked away defeated without lifting a finger. That night, Matthew didn't sleep. I could hear him pacing in the room alone, whispering to himself, breathing heavily, trying not to break. The next morning, he cooked breakfast like nothing happened. He placed a plate in front of me and said, "You don't have to hide anything anymore. If he makes you happy, I will not stand in your way." His hands were shaking when he said it, and that shake was louder than any scream. I thought this would make everything easier, but it only made everything worse. Because instead of leaving me, instead of hating me, he chose to suffer silently. That's when John began pushing harder. Now is the time to leave him. He won't fight back. He's weak. I didn't respond. For the first time, I was scared of John, not attracted to him. There was no love in his voice. Just hunger for power. He didn't want me, he wanted control. That night, Matthew sat beside me on the couch. He didn't touch me. He didn't ask me to stay. He just said, "I need to go somewhere tomorrow. Please don't worry if I'm late." I asked where. He just looked away and said, "I'm going to protect you the only way I know how." He kissed my forehead, soft, broken, final, and went to sleep. But I couldn't sleep. Because I suddenly realized something terrifying. Matthew wasn't trying to get better for himself. He was trying to get better to face John. And John wasn't the type of man to lose. Not without destroying everything first. The next day, Matthew left. No goodbye, no bag, just walked out. I stood by the window watching him disappear from view. Hours passed. Evening turned into night. Then a knock. A single, slow knock. My heart stopped. I thought it was Matthew, but when I opened the door, it wasn't him. John was standing there, not smiling this time. His eyes were cold. And there was someone standing behind him. A stranger.
Tall.
Silent. Expressionless. I stepped back, confused, and asked him what he was doing there. John leaned forward, his voice low, dark, nothing like before. "Matthew thinks he can protect you, but you already belong to me. And now, you're coming with us." Before I could respond, the stranger closed the door behind him. And in that moment I realized, I thought I ruined my marriage. But now, I had ruined my life. The door shut behind John and the stranger, and I felt the walls closing in on me. The air was suddenly heavier, like the oxygen itself wanted to run away. John looked around my house, not like a guest anymore, but like an owner inspecting his new property. His hand brushed the table where Matthew and I once ate dinner together, where we laughed, where I once loved him before throwing everything away. "Where is Matthew?" I asked, trying to sound calm, even though my heart was punching inside my chest. John smiled. Not the charming smile that once made me weak. This one was sharp, cutting. "He went to meet someone today," John said, walking past me. "Someone who can take care of problems." "What problems?" I whispered, though I already knew the answer. He leaned close enough that I could smell his cologne, once comforting, now suffocating. "You think he's going to fight me?" He can't even fight his own nightmares. The stranger, the silent one, started checking the windows, the back door, like he was securing the place. My stomach twisted. Something was happening here that I couldn't control. "What are you doing?" I asked him, voice shaking. He didn't respond. He didn't even look at me. John placed his hand on my cheek, forcing me to look at him. "You chose me," he said. "Now you live with me. From tonight, you stay where I want you to stay." I pushed his hand away. "You can't decide that. I still live with my husband." John laughed, loud, mocking, cruel. "Do you think he still has a claim on you?" My throat tightened. I suddenly realized what my selfishness had cost Matthew. I wanted love, attention, affection, and I replaced them with something dark and dangerous. John grabbed my wrist, his grip painfully tight. "Let's go," he ordered. "No, I'm not going anywhere," I said, even though fear was shaking through me like electricity. John looked at the stranger and nodded. The man stepped toward me, towering over me like a shadow. Panic rushed into me. I backed away. "What do you want from me?" I gasped. John's voice dropped, almost whispering. "You tried to use me to escape your boring life. That's fine. I'll give you a new one. But you don't get to choose anymore." He pulled his phone out, typed something, then showed me the screen. It was a photo. Matthew sitting in a truck, talking to someone I didn't recognize. That someone had a face that looked like trouble. My heart stopped. "What did you do?" I asked. "Nothing," John replied. "Yet." I grabbed the phone from his hand and zoomed in. Matthew was talking to a man outside a large container truck parked in some deserted yard. The man had tattoos, a build like stone, and eyes that didn't look kind. And Matthew, he looked scared. Or determined. Or both. "He's trying to save you," John said quietly. "And that is not going to end well for him." My world flipped upside down in 1 second. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I thought about Matthew's safety instead of my own happiness. "You can't hurt him," I pleaded. "This is my fault, not his." John raised his eyebrows. "Yes, Charlotte. It is your fault." The stranger finished locking all entry points and stood near the door like a guard. John reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out keys, and jingled them. "You're coming with us."
Now.
"No," I yelled, trying to run back toward the hallway. The silent man grabbed me. His hand wrapped around my arm like metal. I fought, kicking, scratching, screaming, but his grip didn't budge. I felt tears spill out. Not because I was being forced, but because I knew. Matthew warned me. He begged for us to try. He loved me even when I didn't deserve it. And I threw all of that away for someone who only saw me as a trophy he could control. "You think I'm scared of your husband?" John said, walking ahead of me. "He should be scared of me." The stranger dragged me outside. My legs were weak, barely keeping me upright. I tried yelling for help, but John covered my mouth with his hand. "No noise," he whispered. "You belong to me." They forced me into the back seat of a black SUV. The stranger slid next to me, blocking any escape. John got in front, started the engine, and we drove away from the house, the home where I had destroyed everything. I looked out the window, hoping to see Matthew running toward me like some insane movie redemption scene. But the road was empty. The night was quiet, and I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. We drove across town for what felt like forever. My mind kept replaying every moment I betrayed Matthew. Every lie, every kiss, every selfish excuse. If I had just held on to him, supported him, loved him the way he loved me, none of this would be happening. Suddenly, the car stopped. We weren't at John's apartment. We were in an industrial area, warehouses, broken streetlights, fences with warning signs. "Where are we?" I asked, still breathless. John got out without answering and walked toward a warehouse door. The stranger dragged me out again. I felt gravel cut into my feet as he pulled me forward. Inside, it was dark, only a single dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. I smelled oil.
Rust.
Something else I didn't want to identify. "What is this place?" I whispered. John turned to me slowly. "This is reality, Charlotte. Not that fantasy you were living." You wanted excitement? You got it. He walked closer, his voice chillingly slow. Matthew met someone today. Someone with a reputation. Someone who solves problems permanently. I shook my head over and over, words stumbling out. No, Matthew isn't like that. He would never. Oh, he wouldn't? John interrupted. You think that broken little soldier of yours can't pull a trigger when pushed too far? He leaned forward, pressing his finger against my forehead. You underestimated him. Just like you underestimated me. I didn't know what he was planning, but I knew Matthew was in danger because of me. I tried to stand straight and find my voice again. What do you want from me? I asked, this time stronger. He smiled again. That terrifying calm smile. I want you to learn that every choice has consequences. He nodded toward the stranger. Tie her up. We wait. The man grabbed my arms and tied my wrists behind my back with rough fabric. I winced as it dug into my skin. They made me sit on a cold metal chair, facing a large rolling shutter door. John walked behind me and whispered, When Matthew arrives, I want him to watch. A shiver sliced down my spine. I wasn't afraid for myself, not anymore. I was afraid for Matthew. He had already been at war once. He survived the battlefield. And now, because of me, he was walking into another. Time crawled. Every second felt like a knife, slicing deeper. I tried to move my wrists, pull free, but the knots were tight. My breathing was loud in the silent warehouse. John was pacing. The stranger stood near the entrance, like a statue. The only sound was the buzzing of that single light above. Then a vehicle pulled up outside. I froze. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. The shutter door rattled and began to lift. My heart hammered against my ribs. The door opened halfway and I saw him. Matthew. Standing there in the dark, eyes burning with something I had never seen before. Not fear. Not pain, purpose. He stepped inside, fists clenched, breathing deeply. Let her go, Matthew said. John laughed. You came alone. How brave. Matthew didn't look afraid. He didn't even look at John. His eyes were on me. Only me, and they were filled with hurt, exhaustion, but something else too. He looked like a man who had nothing left to lose. John circled around him, talking like this was some twisted game. She betrayed you, right in your own home. You still care about someone like that? Matthew didn't answer. Instead, he took another step toward me. I said, let her go. John stopped, turning sharply toward him. What if I don't? Matthew's jaw tightened. His fists rose slightly. You'll regret it, he said quietly. John chuckled. I'm the one in control here, soldier. Matthew slowly shook his head.
No.
You're not. Before anyone could react, Matthew reached behind his jacket and pulled out something. Not a gun, not a knife, just a folded piece of paper. John blinked, confused. What is that? Matthew opened it and threw it on the floor between them. It was a photograph. The same man from earlier, the tattooed one near the truck, standing beside Matthew. And on the back, a phone number written in bold ink. Matthew's voice was calm, disturbingly calm. I made a deal today. John stiffened. The stranger stepped forward. What deal? John demanded. Matthew took one more step toward me. Someone else knows everything. And if anything happens to Charlotte, he stared straight into John's eyes. You disappear. The warehouse fell silent. John's confident grin slowly faded, replaced by something I had never seen in him before.
Fear.
Matthew continued, voice steady. I came alone tonight because I want her safe. But don't think for 1 second I am helpless. Not anymore. John exhaled through clenched teeth, trying to keep control. She cheated on you, he hissed, pointing at me. She chose me. Matthew finally looked at me, and that glance cut deeper than any blade ever could. I know, he whispered. My breath caught. He knew. He accepted. And yet he came anyway. But I will protect her, he continued, even from her own mistakes. I broke down crying. Not out of fear, but because I didn't deserve this man. Not after what I did. John stepped back, eyes narrowing, calculating. You think you've won? Matthew shook his head. There is no winning here. There's just walking away before somebody gets buried. Silence stretched. John finally nodded to the stranger, signaling him to loosen his grip. The stranger hesitated, then took a step back. Matthew rushed to me, untying my wrists quickly. His hands shook while touching me, not with anger, but with heartbreak. We're leaving, he said. He held my hand, the same hand I gave to someone else, and started walking me toward the exit. John didn't stop us. He just stood there, breathing heavily as his illusion of power cracked in front of him. But when we reached the door, John spoke again, voice low, deadly calm. This isn't over. Matthew didn't turn around.
Yes, it is, he said.
We stepped out into the night, cold air slapping my face, reminding me I was still alive. Matthew guided me toward a car parked near a streetlight. He opened the door for me gently. As I sat inside, shaking, I looked at him. He didn't yell. He didn't blame me. He didn't even look angry. That terrified me more than anything. Matthew, I whispered, why did you come? He finally looked at me, eyes full of the sadness of someone who has survived too much. Because no matter what you did, no matter how much it hurts, his voice broke. I can't let you disappear like my nightmares want you to. Before I could say anything else, he closed the door and walked to the driver's side. We drove in silence. City lights blurred. My reflection in the window looked like a stranger, a selfish, foolish stranger who almost cost a good man his life. When we reached home, Matthew didn't speak. He simply unlocked the door, walked inside, and sat on the couch, staring at nothing. I sat across from him, unable to stop crying. Finally, he asked one question softly, painfully. How long? I answered honestly.
Weeks.
Too many weeks. Matthew closed his eyes, breathing slowly. And then he said the words that shattered me completely. I still love you, but I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. I opened my mouth to apologize, but he raised his hand, stopping me. Not tonight. You're safe. That's enough. He stood up, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door behind him. With a soft click. The same soft click that once broke him, now breaking me. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My body was exhausted, but my guilt was louder than any dream could ever be. I lay there on the couch, staring into the darkness, listening to Matthew breathe behind the closed bedroom door. Hours passed. Nothing changed. By morning, sunlight came through the curtains, but inside me there was no light left. I looked around the living room. The same room where Matthew once held me during movies, the same room where I broke his heart without shame. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling from everything that had happened the night before. I walked toward the bedroom door. My heart prayed he would open it and tell me we could fix this, that I wasn't a lost cause, that he still believed in us. But when I placed my ear against the wood, I heard silence. Complete silence. I knocked gently, scared of waking whatever pain still slept inside him. Matthew, can we talk? I whispered. No answer. Please, I just want to explain. After a long moment, his voice came tired, heavy. There is nothing left to explain, Charlotte. That sentence wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was worse, it was numb. I leaned my forehead against the door. I'm sorry, I said, and the word burned coming out. He didn't respond. Not a single sound. I walked away, because I had no right to push him anymore. Later that afternoon, I tried again. I made coffee, the way he liked it, strong, black, 2 spoons of sugar. I placed it on the table near him. He sat there, staring at nothing again. The TV was on but muted, a habit he picked up to avoid loud noise. I made this for you, I said softly. He didn't even look at the cup. Then he spoke without moving his eyes. Did you ever love me, Charlotte? That question cracked me into pieces. Not because it was unfair, but because I didn't deserve to answer it. Yes, I said. I did. I still do. He finally looked at me. His eyes, haunted, tired, searched for truth. Then why him? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I got selfish. You were slipping away into pain, and instead of holding on to you, I looked for attention elsewhere. Tears fell before I realized I was crying. I wanted to feel alive again, but I didn't realize I was killing you by doing so. Matthew looked away again, his jaw clenched. I came home from war to build a life with you, he whispered. I never thought I'd have to fight a war inside my own home. I knelt in front of him and placed my hand on his. He didn't move his hand away, but he didn't hold mine back either. I'm sorry, I repeated, because those were the only words I had left. He spoke again, voice breaking. You should have told me you were unhappy. I would have done anything to fix us. And that's what destroyed me the most. He would have tried. He always tried. Even when I gave up. Matthew sighed, long and tired. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, he finally said. I need time and space. My heart stopped. Are you leaving me? I whispered. He stood up. You already left me, Charlotte. I didn't chase him. I didn't beg. I had no right anymore. He packed a bag, walked to the door, and paused. He didn't look back because looking back hurts. But he did say one last thing. I hope you never feel the kind of pain you gave me.
The door closed.
And this time there was no soft click. It slammed shut like a final goodbye. I fell to the floor, shaking, sobbing, screaming silently. When you break someone built from scars, there's no forgiveness left in them. Days passed. Every hour felt like punishment. I walked through the house like a ghost, touching everything that reminded me of us. The wedding picture on the shelf. The blanket we fought over every night. His coffee mug on the counter. I stopped eating. I stopped talking. I stopped living. But the world outside kept moving like our love never existed. Matthew didn't answer my calls. He didn't respond to my messages. He didn't want anything to do with me. And John?
Gone.
Just disappeared. No texts. No calls. Nothing. When his power over me vanished, so did he. That's when I realized he never cared about me. He cared about winning. And he lost, so he walked away. One night, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the front door, praying it would open. That Matthew would walk in. That he would say we can fix this. But it didn't open. And he didn't come home. Instead, I started noticing things. A car parked outside the house longer than usual. A shadow near the street lamp at midnight. Footsteps in the alley that quickly went silent. Every little sound made me jump. Then one evening I found a note stuck in the door. A single sentence written in black ink. No one takes what's mine. There was no name. But I didn't need one.
John.
My body shook uncontrollably as I read those words again and again.
He wasn't gone.
He was watching. Waiting. And suddenly, I was terrified of walking outside, terrified of being alone inside. I locked every door, every window, turned on every light, slept with a kitchen knife under the pillow. But no amount of light can make you forget the darkness you let in. The next morning, I called Matthew. He didn't pick up. I called again, and again,
and again.
After the fourth call, voicemail finally broke me. I left a message, crying. Please, I need you. I'm scared. I know I don't deserve your help, but he's still out there. He might come back. I don't know what to do. For the rest of the day, I stared at the phone, waiting for it to ring. It didn't. Night arrived, the silence louder than ever. And I remembered something Matthew once told me during one of his good days. The scariest enemies are not on the battlefield, they're the ones we invite into our homes. And I did exactly that. Hours later, footsteps.
Slow.
Heavy. Right outside the door. I froze. My heart slammed against my ribcage.
Knock. Knock.
2 knocks.
Just like the night they took me.
I grabbed the knife, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Another knock, harder this time. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just waited for the door to break open. Then the voice.
Soft.
Familiar. Charlotte, it's me. I dropped the knife and ran to the door, hands trembling as I unlocked it. I opened it, and there he was. Matthew. His eyes widened when he saw how terrified I looked. He stepped inside quickly, closing the door and locking it. "What happened?" he asked, voice urgent. I handed him the note with shaking fingers. He read it, jaw tightening instantly. "That's his handwriting," I whispered. Matthew looked at me, anger, protectiveness, heartbreak all burning together. "I warned him," he said quietly. "If he tries anything again, I won't stop." For the first time, I believed him. He wasn't running from his pain anymore. He wasn't scared of his own strength anymore. He was ready to fight, not for us, but for my safety. He walked around the house, checking every window, every lock. Then he sat across from me at the kitchen table. "We're going to the police tomorrow," he said. "You won't stay alone anymore." I nodded, wiping tears. "Matthew, I don't deserve your help." He looked away, eyes glistening. "No, you don't," he said. "But I won't let him hurt you. Not even after what you did." That hurt, but I deserved every bit of it. I whispered, voice breaking apart. "Do you hate me?" He paused for a long time before answering. "I hate what you did, but I don't know how to stop loving you." That sentence, that impossible love, shattered me in a way nothing else could. I sobbed, covering my face with my hands. Matthew stood up and placed a blanket around my shoulders, not holding me, not comforting me like before, but making sure I was safe. "You can sleep in the bedroom tonight," he said. "I'll stay here and keep watch." I shook my head. "No, you sleep. I'll stay here." He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time since the betrayal, I saw the tiniest flicker of the man who once promised me forever. He nodded. "As you wish." He walked to the bedroom, not closing the door fully this time, leaving it slightly open. Not an invitation. Not forgiveness.
Just a chance.
I sat on the couch, clutching the blanket, staring at the doorway where Matthew disappeared. I destroyed the love of a man who would have died for me. I betrayed the only person who ever truly cared. I chased excitement and found fear. I wanted freedom and found a cage. I cheated, and now I live every day terrified of the consequences. If anyone is listening to my story, please hear this. You can fix boredom. You can fix distance. You can fix almost every problem in a relationship, but you cannot fix betrayal. Once you break someone's trust, there is no glue in the world that can make it whole again. Tonight, Matthew sleeps just a few feet away from me, but I have never felt so far from him in my life. Because I lost him. I lost the only person who ever truly loved me. And I have no one to blame, except myself.